maybe we should wait for Matt to fan the flames. Oh,
Ooh.
wow, fired up is
Effective.
dramatic. Are you still going, Pete?
Yeah.
Jay?
Yeah, no need for this one.
So here is what Tom wrote for us.
Oh no.
Brad's computer lit up with a bright green circle with the words "Answer Call." He threw on his headphones and clicked it. Hello? Two faces appeared. The first was Boss Greg. The other, a stranger in a lab coat. Hey, Brad. Glad you could make it. We're going to get started in just 1 sec. Brad frowned. How many are we still waiting on? Huh? Oh, no, it's just going to be the three of us. Brad, this is Scientist Steve. Scientist Steve, this is Scientist Brad. Steve smiled. His immaculately combed blonde hair almost looked invisible in the bright light of his all-white room. Brad smiled back nervously. Scientist, Steve, not doctor? Steve smirked. Oh no. I don't have a doctorate. I have 3 master's degrees, though, in computational biology, biochemistry, and nuclear astrobiology. Brad slowly nodded. I also have a master's in astrophysics and biotechnology, but I thought, based on the nature of our project, Greg interrupted. Look, Brad, we're all very highly qualified scientists here. There's no need to worry. Brad felt an extremely uneasy sensation percolate throughout his body. Greg laughed and adjusted his 10-gallon science hat. Well, I'll let you two get acquainted. I'll be back in a few minutes. I got something to take care of. He got up from his chair, leaving his webcam on so Brad could see his office and his picture of him in his fishing gear holding up his prized 16-pound science fish. Steve looked unworried, and Brad wasn't sure if that made him feel better or worse. Look, Scientist Steve. Steve nodded dutifully. Yes. Every one of us was working on something big, like something completely outside the normal bounds of STEM fields. Highly experimental and stretching our understanding of what is scientifically possible. That's what it said on the mission statement. Steve finished his sentence. Yeah, Brad grimaced. He didn't even think science was supposed to have mission statements. I thought there were more than 30 of us, and now there's only you and me. Steve scratched his chin. Well, I know some of the others have run into some difficulties. Scientist Dave stopped showing up to meetings a week ago, but Greg keeps telling me he's okay and that he's recovering. What was he working on? Well, Scientist Dave has been obsessed with the phrase "up your butt" and started exploring ways to make that a literal reality. Brad opened his mouth and closed it several times. What? Yes, I know. One can already place all kinds of things inside. He paused thoughtfully. Various bodily cavities. But he had ideas like rockets and monuments. Monuments? As in, like Mount Rushmore or the Eiffel Tower? Precisely, Steve said with far too much enthusiasm. His research was fascinating. First, he was looking at the possibilities of bending space. He had some really interesting ideas about shrinking matter, about dimensional shifting, and he once told me he was convinced there was a parallel reality where everything was of a fractional scale to our own. And if you create a precise enough warp point, you could place that universe's Seattle Space Needle into the rectal cavity of a small cow. But of course, that was preposterous. Brad felt his jaw completely agape and closed it. So what happened to him? I think it was an unrelated accident. Last I heard, he stopped all work on bending space since he found a simpler solution was a restructuring of the human genome to allow our flesh to stretch to 15 times as normal. Brad blinked a few times and decided he didn't want to know. Okay, well, how about your research? How's it going? Scientist Steve shrugged. We're making progress, but we're having some difficulty with our project on gorilla mechanics. Gorilla mechanics? I'm afraid so. Do you mean mechanics like applied mathematics, like quantum mechanics? Or do you mean like gorillas who fix cars? Before Steve could answer, a gorilla hit him over the head with a wrench, took a poop on his desk, and ran. Brad shivered. Steve was just gone. Whatever happened to him, he'd gone completely off camera and couldn't be seen. The poop, however, was stuck right to the desk in plain view of the webcam, taking up a good quarter of the screen. Greg was still not back. Was he coming back? Did something happen to him? A new video feed suddenly squished the other feeds to a smaller portion of the screen. Two new faces shared the stream. The left one was male and had long, dark hair and small, round glasses. To the right, a woman with jet black hair up in a ponytail with the same small, round glasses. Scientist, Brad? The man asked breathlessly. Brad shook his head in disbelief. What's going on? I'm Scientist Stan, and this is my sister, Scientist Deborah. We need your help. Brad closed his eyes and grabbed the bridge of his nose. He counted to 3 in his head. Okay, what do you need? Deborah answered. All of our experiments are ending in disaster. Stan and I only really began to notice once we started working together. Brad shrugged. Okay, what are you working on? The next part of the story is a Mad Lib.
What?
C, a verb ending in ing. For example, writing.
Hold on. Are we supposed to do this?
It would appear so.
Barking.
Okay, what?
Barking. Okay.
What? I think is Tom just fucking with us.
It's Tom, so. B, an adjective used in fantasy stories.
Sword fighting.
Sword fighting.
Or adjective.
Oh,
It's not
you
really
don't
an
have any
adjective.
way to write this down, do you?
Actually, I do. Edit PDF. Nope.
I can just write down the words and then you can.
Oh, I
Okay,
can
that's a good
comment,
idea.
Maybe.
It'll be kind of fun too, because you'll forget what they are, and then she'll say them, and it'll be funny. We will laugh.
Okay, fuck it. Yeah.
So barking and then an adjective that's
Yeah,
used
so
in
sword-
fantasy.
Oh wait, yeah, an adjective. Not that was a verb I got.
Yeah.
Oh. Deliriously. Or delirious.
Sure, why not? And finally, a plural form of an animal.
Rhinoceri.
I was gonna go with
Rhinoceri.
chinchillas.
Okay.
Let's do it.
At first, we were teaching rhinoceri how to deliriously bark.
Is that it?
Brad threw up his hands.
What the fuck?
Hold on.
That's ridiculous. It sounds like something a bunch of idiots made up on the spot while sitting around a campfire.
That's coming for all of us and you, especially Dylan.
Oh, fuck. Deborah nodded. Well, that's what we started with. But then Stan had a fascinating idea about the manipulation of time. Brad wasn't even fazed by this point. Time travel. Stan tilted his head back and forth slightly. Time travel might not be the right word for it. It's sort of a form of time hearing. Well, think of it this way. If you had a powerful enough telescope, you would be able to see back in time, right? Because the light from distant stars takes so long to reach us, if you can see far enough, you can see things that happened hundreds or thousands of years ago. If we had a big enough mirror positioned properly, we could see the light from Earth and be able to see things from our own past. And because sound travels much more slowly than light, you should be able to hear something even further back in time. So then it's only a matter of creating a transceiver sophisticated enough to hear forward in time. Brad scoffed. That doesn't make any sense. It sounds incredible, I know. No, it sounds stupid. That's not how any of those things work. We built it. Deborah pointed to a machine behind them. It works. This is our time amplifier. We can hear what's going to happen years in advance. Yesterday we heard the gunshot that hit scientist Carl today. Someone shot him? That's a bit of a misnomer. Stan absently took off his glasses and cleaned them on his shirt. He was working on a self-aware bullet. Nobody shot him per se. It was more that the bullet willed itself into his lung. His glasses went back on. His face remained neutral, like what he was saying was perfectly ordinary. So you didn't manage to stop it from happening? Well, we think that the bullet originally was going to hit him in the head, so we think our Skype call really made a difference. Look, Deborah cut in. One of the scientists in our group has been working on a chaos bomb. We think it went off in his lab 3 days ago, and it's been causing all of our experiments to go awry. Brad frowned. Your time amplifier seems to be working fine. Yeah, but it's about to explode. The amplifier exploded. Bits of debris bounced harmlessly off a clear tarp that Stan and Deborah must have set up beforehand. Stan sighed. There it goes. Yes, we heard it was going to happen yesterday. We couldn't figure out how to stop it. Brad looked at his watch. Greg has been gone a long time. Deborah's face was grim. By now we think he's been crushed by his own hag. Brad, we need your help. You're the only one whose experiments haven't ended in disaster. That's because I haven't even started. I just got brought on yesterday. Stan nodded. That's perfect. As long as you don't start your experiment, you're in no danger of quantum entropy. In a few minutes, a truck will be pulling up outside your house. You live in Montrose, right? Brad pushed his chair back. Wait, hold on. You're delivering one of your experiments to my house? Hold on, stay right there. Stan cleared everything off his desk in a big sweep, and while Deborah moved to a webcam, he spread out a big design schematic and photographs of his invention. Brad wheeled himself back to the monitor and gave it a good close look. It was a long silver ovaloid rocket with one window, barely big enough for one person. Stan cleared his throat. I call this time suppository. Brad's voice came out in monotone like a statement, not a question. What? It's a slight misnomer, I suppose. It's meant to be ingested by any means, but I thought the term time capsule would be confusing because that's already a thing. Deborah added, if you can insert this device into a person's digestive system, it will cause their stomach to gurgle some very specific sounds, and we'll have been able to hear it with our time amplifier 3 weeks ago when it first came online, and then we can stop scientist George from developing the chaos bomb. Brad's eyebrow raised. Okay, assuming all that made sense, how exactly am I going to fit a whole rocket inside somebody's body? The ground beneath him was shaking. It hadn't been noticeable for the last few minutes, but it was getting more and more intense. The sun in Brad's window went dim. Brad put down his headphones and ran to the window, throwing it open and sticking his head fully outside. Up in the sky, blocking most of the sun, descended Scientist Dave's butthole, ready to envelop the entire Earth. A pickup truck zipped around the corner, towing the rocket behind it, which was hastily tethered onto a small sailboat. You can do this, Brad. It has to be you, Stan's voice said. Brad pulled his head back inside to see Stan and Deborah's lab crumbling behind them. The webcam shut off. Brad looked down at his project folder. All he had wanted to do was make a perpetual motion balloon, and now he was the only one who could save the entire world from a giant rear end. He shook his head in one last gesture of disbelief, then climbed out his window. The driver climbed out of the truck and took off running down the street without a word as he reverse-aged into a small child. Brad climbed into the rocket and closed the door behind him. There was just one button, up. In seconds, the rocket was expelling flame right through the boat below and slowly lifting into the air. Brad gritted his teeth. This was it. It was finally time to fly a time suppository right up Destiny's asshole. 3 weeks earlier, Greg smiled. Sounds great. And Scientist Barry, what are you working on? Mood bread. Greg's expression didn't change. He dragged his words out thoughtfully as he jotted down notes in his binder. Mood bread. Sounds good. Scientist Judy. Judy's face on the monitor looked absolutely disgusted. My project was originally about combining goats and lobsters into some kind of self-driving vehicle animal, but apparently my project is now just stopping Scientist Susan from whatever she's working on. Greg nodded. Yes, unfortunately, there's a lot of that happening right now. I got a note yesterday from Stan and Deborah not to let George finish his project, so I tasked Scientist Jennifer with stopping George, and then Scientist Norman had to stop Scientist Jennifer, and I'm not sure where we left off with that, but Stan and Deborah said everything should work out. Okay, but nobody told me Susan's original project was self-menstruating tampons because the break room smells awful. Greg jotted down more notes. Break room full of period blood. Okay, if that's everything. Scientist Stan cleared his throat. Greg furiously thumbed through his binder. Oh, right. Whose job is it to make sure Scientist Brad is born? That's kind of an important one. And that's what Tom contributed.
Self-menstruating tampons.